Hello and welcome to Dedicated Dentist 32 Reasons Why. This is Faryal Fatima Hashmi. Make sure you share, like and subscribe. So without further ado, let's get into the video. We'll talk about the occlusion and development of occlusion. The period of dental occlusion development includes the prenatal period, deciduous dentition period, and mixed dentition period, and permanent dentition period. Let's start off with the prenatal period. It starts in the neonate from birth till 6 months of age. Now, an infant is called the neonate in medical context during the first month of age. Hence, there's this term neonatal teeth, that is the mandibular incisor teeth that are seen in the gum pads during the first month of age. And natal teeth, these are seen at the time of birth. So, these were the terms neonate and the infant. And we call infant in the first year of age. So, we see gum pads instead of alveolar processes in the neonates. This is how it is, horseshoe shaped, and there's this labelings you can see, incisive papilla. There are transverse groove which divide the gum pad into segments, and these segments they have this tooth buds present or tooth sac present. So there's this dental groove that separates the labiobuccal and lingual portion. So there are two portions of this gum pad, and this lateral sulcus, that is very important here. It suggests the location of a canine and first molar in the near future, and it helps in judging the inter-arch relationship at a very early age. Thus, it is present distal in the mandibular gum pad as compared to the maxillary. Now you see the gingival groove which separates the upper gum pad from the floor of the mouth and the palate. Now these gum pads during first year of age, there's rapid growth seen in the gum pads, and mostly in the posterior region because it has to accommodate the molars, and it has a greater mesiodistal width as compared to other teeth. So there's this rapid growth taking place in mandible during first year of life. So in the pre-dental period up to 6 months of age, there are no teeth present. We are talking only about these gum pads. So this is how the contact occurs between the maxillary and mandibular gum pad in the first molar region. And anterior to it, you see there is a lot of space here. This is the open bite that helps in suckling during breastfeeding. Also, there is complete overjet around here. You see how this maxillary gum pad is so anteriorly placed. So this overjet is present, and this resolves with time and eruption of teeth, and also with the growth of the gum pads. So that was all about the gum pads in the predental period. There are no teeth, and it lasts from birth till 6 months of age. And the teeth, they are present in the tooth sac and a cribs. So this overjet will reduce due to the forward growth of the mandible. And there's this anomaly called natal teeth and neonatal teeth that we have already talked about. The teeth that are present at the time of birth, these are called as natal teeth, and they erupt at early age. And the teeth that are present during the first month of life, they are called as neonatal teeth. So they are located, these natal and neonatal teeth, they are located in the mandibular incisor region, and they show familial tendency. So that was all about this predental period. Now we move on to the next, that is deciduous dentition period. Here we'll talk about the spacing indentation and deep bite. So this stage is characterized by spacing indentation and a deep bite. So there's this general spacing present in the deciduous dentition. So that helps to accommodate the permanent teeth, to get an arch in, to get align teeth well and get into a good relation. So these are called as physiological space or developmental space. You see that mesial to maxillary canine there is space, and distal to the mandibular canine also there is space present. Now this is called as simian space, anthropoid space or primate space as seen in the primates. So that helps in the placement of canine cusp, and also sometimes it is utilized when the mandibular molar, first molar, it shifts mesially and utilizes this space to achieve a class 1 molar relationship. The permanent first molar, it utilizes this primate space to get a ideal class 1 relationship, angles class 1. Now, if the child doesn't have spacing in the deciduous dentition, we can suggest that there is a 70% chance that it will lead to crowding in the permanent dentition. However, this is not always the case because there is also forward growth of the mandible taking place. So, this is the normal relation we get in a deciduous dentition. This is the normal feature of deciduous dentition. You see how the deciduous second molar distal surfaces are in one plane. Now, why is this deciduous second molar is so important? Because this deciduous second molar, the distal surface, it guides the eruption of permanent first molar. Now, when a permanent first molar has to erupt, it is guided by this distal surface of deciduous second molar. Hence, this relation of deciduous second molar is very important to us because it guides the eruption of permanent first molar into the dental arch. Hence, we have to keep this in mind. Now, not all dentition will have this flush terminal or vertical terminal relation. We also have a distal step. You see how the deciduous second molar lower is placed distal. Its distal surface, you see how it is distal as compared to the upper tooth. So this is distal step. Also we have a mesial step, which is the lower deciduous second molar. Deciduous second molar is more mesial compared to the upper molar. So either we can have a flush terminal relation in a dentition, or we may have a distal step or terminal mesial step. Okay, so we see a deep bite. Deep bite is also present in the deciduous dentition because the teeth, they are more upright. This is not the exam. The teeth, they are more upright. This lower incisor, its incisal edge contacts the cingulum area of teeth. Okay, so hence the deep bite is present in deciduous dentition. Whereas in the permanent dentition, the teeth, they are more labially inclined. They are not like this straight and upright to just one above the other, the incisal edge contacting the cingulum area. Like in deciduous dentition, no. It's very labially placed. That is because the molars have erupted. In the permanent dentition, they have taken up space and their eruptive forces are such that they force the teeth anteriorly, and hence these anterior incisors also get labially inclined. So this deep bite in the deciduous dentition, over time it gets reduced because of the eruption of molars. There's attrition of incisors and also forward growth of mandible. So that was all about the dentition, deciduous dentition period. We see spacing in this period and a deep bite. So these are the characteristic feature of this period. We can see either a flush terminal relation, a distal step or mesial step. And how a deep bite is corrected, we have seen that. Now we move on to the next, that is mixed dentition period, that begins at 6 years of age. That is when the first permanent molar erupts. Again, this has three phases: first transitional period, intertransitional and second transitional periods. So first transitional period it's characterized by eruption of permanent molars and permanent incisors. So in the first transitional period, the permanent molars and permanent incisors erupt. So the emergence of first permanent molar, happens by two shifts. It is accomplished by either an early mesial shift or late mesial shift. Let's get into the detail. Now say we have a flush terminal relation in a deciduous dentition. That is, we talked how the distal of surfaces of deciduous second molar are in one plane. They are placed exactly one above the other. You see how? Now we have to keep this in mind. When the permanent molar will erupt, they will get into a end-on relationship. And this is exactly like this. Flush terminal relation in a deciduous dentition, and if the same growth pattern persists, then we get an end-on relationship in permanent dentition. Now, the changes always happen. Change is the name of the game. So when there is excess forward growth of the mandible, there is forward growth of mandible, you can imagine what can possibly happen. This will move forward, that is, this cusp will fall into this embrasure area, and this mesiobuccal cusp will fit into the mesiobuccal groove. I hope you can visualize it. So we will get a class 1 molar relationship. When there was a flush terminal relation in the deciduous dentition and everything was going smoothly, the growth pattern, same growth pattern persisted, and thus it resulted in an end-on relationship. You see how similar they are? This is dentition, deciduous dentition, and this is permanent dentition. We got an end-on relationship. Now when the growth pattern changes, there is mandibular forward growth. You can imagine this mandibular forward growth. This mandibular first permanent molar will move forward. Okay, hence this mesiobuccal cusp of maxillary molar will fit here into the mesiobuccal groove of lower molar, and thus we'll get a ideal class 1 molar relationship. And this is how we get our Angel's class 1 relationship. Now again, there are two ways how a class 1 molar relationship is achieved, that is by early mesial shift and late mesial shift. Now how the early mesial shift happens is, we have primate spaces, we talked before, mesial to maxillary canine and distal to mandibular canine. Hence when this first permanent molar will erupt, it has this huge eruptive forces, and with the help of these eruptive forces, it will push this teeth anterior and utilize this primate space, and thus get into a class 1 molar relationship, Angel's class 1 relationship. When there are, the condition is when there are primate space present in the dentition, deciduous dentition. Hence this class 1 molar ideal relationship is achieved with the help of primate space. This is called as early mesial shift. Another possibility is that, another way by which it achieves the Angel's class 1 relationship is that when there are no primate spaces. Okay, the condition is, previously we talked when there were primate spaces present. Now we don't have any primate spaces. You see how the compactly teeth are arranged in this deciduous dentition. So you see this permanent first molar has erupted, right? So there are no primate space for it to use its eruptive forces and push the teeth anteriorly. So it waits for this deciduous second molar to exfoliate. Now when this deciduous second molar exfoliate, it moves anteriorly, right? And thus it achieves a class 1 relationship. So that was how a flush terminal relation that resulted in a class 1 molar relation due to forward growth of the mandible, it took place by early mesial shift and late mesial shift. So either of the case results in a class 1 Angel's relationship. Likewise, like a flush terminal, we have mesial step and a distal step. So this is very important for us, the deciduous second molar relation. You see how the maxillary first molar mesiobuccal cusp is fitting into the mesiobuccal groove. So this is the ideal condition. So if the same growth pattern persists, it will result into a class 1 molar relationship. Or now the changes are happening again. When there is mandibular forward growth, we get a class 3 relation. Either of the case. Suppose our dentition has a mesial step, deciduous dentition, it can either lead to class 1 if the same growth pattern persists, or a class 3 if there's changes in the growth pattern, that is, there is more forward growth of the mandible. Thus we get a class 3. Next we have a distal step. Now you can predict this easily, what the relationship might be. The mesiobuccal cusp is in the embrasure area. Okay, here lies the premolar here. So it will lie in this way. You can predict this. Here we will have a premolar and this embrasure area. So mesiobuccal cusp is into the embrasure area. This maxillary molar is ahead of the mandibular molar. So you can suggest that you can predict that there will be a class 2 relationship if the same growth pattern persists. Now, when the growth changes occurs, there is forward growth of the mandible. This mandibular molar will move forward, and we know that mandibular move forward will get a end-on relationship. Okay. So keeping in mind the position of deciduous second molar, the relationship of deciduous second molar, we can easily predict that how the relation will be in the permanent dentition. Next, we move on to the inter-arch transitional period. That is, this is relatively stable and it has set of deciduous and permanent teeth. The next one, second transitional period. Now, this is characterized by the replacement of deciduous molars and canines by premolars and permanent canines. So, there's this how they adjust. Now, how will these teeth adjust is because there's this surplus space called leeway space of Nance. You see how here the permanent canine and premolars, their combined width is still less than the deciduous molars and deciduous canines. Hence, they fit into that space, and there's this surplus space present that we call leeway space of Nance, which is 3.4 mm in the mandibular arch, 1.7 mm on each arch, that is third and fourth quadrant. Again, you see how the premolars and permanent canine, the combined width of this is still less than the deciduous molars and deciduous canines. And there's this surplus space we call leeway space of Nance, which is 1.8 mm in the maxillary arch, 0.9 mm on either side, that in first and second quadrant. Hence, this because of this leeway space of Nance, this permanent permanent canine and premolars can adjust into the dental arch. And the mandibular molars are comparatively larger than the maxillary molars. Now, when the permanent canines erupt, there's this phenomenon called Broadbent phenomenon or ugly duckling stage. It is seen in between 8 to 9 years of age in the maxillary incisor region. And during the time of eruption of permanent incisors, it is usually seen. Actually, this is a transient on self-correcting malocclusion, usually misunderstood by parent as a malocclusion. Actually, it is not. It eventually resolves on its own after the permanent canine erupts into the oral cavity fully. So, as these canines erupt, they diverge these incisors, central incisors. Now, when they are present inside the jaw and they start erupting, they produce this force on these roots of the lateral incisors, and this force is transmitted to the central incisors, and thus they just central and lateral incisors, they diverge laterally because of the force of the erupting canine, and it appears like a midline diastema. When these start erupting into the oral cavity, they again push this, and soon as they erupt outside, that is the permanent canines, they erupt fully, this issue resolves on its own and is often misunderstood by parents, often mistaken as a malocclusion, but this diastema, it eventually closes later. So it is called as an ugly duckling stage or Broadbent phenomenon. Now comes the permanent dentition. So the permanent dentition forms within the jaw soon after birth, except the cusp of permanent first molars which form before the birth. So the permanent incisors, this is how they erupt, that is, these are permanent incisors and these are primary incisors. So these permanent incisors, they are more lingually or palatally placed. You see how they are lingually placed as compared to the deciduous incisors. So this is how they erupt, and when they come into the oral cavity, the deciduous incisors, these are upright, and these permanent incisors, they appear more labially inclined. And the premolars, this is how they are present under the diverged roots of the molars, deciduous molars. So this is how the permanent incisors are placed, that is, they develop lingual or palatal to the deciduous incisor and move labially as they erupt. And whereas the premolars, they develop below the diverging roots of the deciduous molar. Now this is the eruption sequence of the maxillary teeth. That is, first the molar erupts, 6, 1, 2, 4. Usually in the maxillary arch, the premolar erupts before canine, and in mandibular arch, the canines erupt before premolars. However, this is not always the case. Like I said, there are always variations. So the dentition exhibits many variations, but this is the most frequently seen. So that was it, guys. I hope you liked the video. Please make sure you share, like and subscribe. So that was it. Thank you.